Hey there, adventurers! Right now is really the best time in Classic WoW to get extremely rich. See, getting rich means you can achieve all your WoW dreams, from slaying on Nixia, vanquishing Ragnaros, getting your epic mount. But to make sure all that happens and you don't end up in the poorhouse, a really good strategy, a good plan is required. Lucky for you, I'm already level 60 and I'm well on my way to my epic mount, so let me explain exactly what I'm doing to get there. See, it really comes down to 4 different pillars to maximize your gold as quickly as you can. We have leveling gold. How do you make money while you're leveling to ensure you're set up for the long-term success? Then we have things you can actually do at level 60, farms that are insanely strong, and they're only going to get worse as more and more players crowd them up. Of course, we've also got to talk professions, because professions are one of the very best gold makers in Classic WoW. And finally, we're talking vendor and auction house flips. Things like profitable vendor flips that are insanely profitable and you don't even have to do any work at all. First though, I've got to let you know this video is sponsored by my level 60 hardcore character. I just hit level 60 in hardcore and I wanted to take out an ad spot to let you guys know it was really fun. I know some people have their doubts about hardcore, but if you ever think about doing it, highly recommend it. Just don't die. That'll be really depressing. Anyways, back to the gold farming. So the very best thing you could do to start out your gold making is leveling gold. So starting out, let's say you're in your mid-level 20s, one of the very best gold makers is gnolls. See, especially on the horde side, where a lot of people are playing this time around, there is just not enough wool cloth. Then another one of these farms, really good, would be the fire elementals in Arathi Highlands. These drop the exact item you need for greater fire protection potions, but they're also dropping the charms you need for the warrior whirlwind axe too. Then as you get a little bit higher, maybe level 38 to 40, one of the very best farms will be the Whelps and Swamp of Sorrows. Now, this is really one of those farms where if your server is kind of empty, if you're playing at like 3 AM for example, it's going to be a lot better. With crowding, it's just not nearly as good. Still, you're getting the small flame sacks, and every single person as they're leveling, they're going to want small flame sacks because they want Dragon Breath Chili. Getting even higher into the Nagas, for example, around level 45 to 50. The Naga farm is so amazing because you're getting tons of venerable items, but you're also getting the golden pearls. The thing about golden pearls is they're going to be at their lowest value right now, so definitely an investment item too. But as the server matures, golden pearls become one of the very most valuable items in Classic. Then when you finally get into your mid-50s, let's say 52 to 53, this is where Plaguelands is such an amazing gold farm. Without ever using an auction house, without ever talking to another player, I have over 150 gold, and I bought my dual spec and my normal slow mount too. Just farming and selling things to the vendor is incredibly underrated. Also in your mid-50s, satyrs are one of the very best gold farms. Of course you're getting the fell cloth, you're also getting demonic runes if you're a caster. And every single caster, they want demonic runes. Best part about satyrs, they're probably one of the squishiest types of mobs in the entire game. You can farm them incredibly quickly, you're getting great levels, great XP, and you're also getting great gold too. Then as you're pushing towards 60, the Scarlet Spellbinders, you know the location, exactly where you get Crusader in Western Plaguelands. This is one of those spots, if you can stomach the low drop rate of Crusader, you could get 2-3 recipes while you're leveling to 60. You could easily be selling this recipe for 400-500 gold a pop. And then, to finish off your level 60 grind, my very favorite spot in the entire game is the Furbogs. Now, we're not just talking the Winterfall Firewater, we're also talking the echoes that drop if you do the Juju quest. They're going to sell very quickly on the auction house once the raids start. The best part is, though, about every 15 minutes or so, the Winterfall Chieftain, he's gonna spawn, and he drops a guaranteed Firewater. Now, one thing to note is when I was leveling, we did a ton of grinding. We did a ton of things that weren't necessarily efficient rested XP questing style. And one of the reasons why is because we wanted to save a ton of the quests for level 60. This leads us to really one of the very best gold makers, especially on a fresh server, a server without a lot of gold. The best raw gold in the entire game is going to come from completing level 60 quests. The idea is essentially leave all the very good quests 55 and higher and save them for level 60. Spend 55 to 60 grinding things like the Furbogs, and you can get 200, 300 gold at 60 without really doing any work at all. The only thing to keep in mind, you can do quests below 55, for example, Ungoro quests, but you want to make sure you're at least within 10 levels or you're barely getting any gold at all. Another note on questing gold, you really should be doing all the different dungeon quests too. Not only are you getting 4, 5, 6 gold a pop from these dungeon quests, but you're also completing extremely valuable quests, like the Onyxia Attunement for example. You're getting pre-bis gear you really need, you're knocking out a ton of different things at the same time, you're making a lot of gold. And also, while you're doing things like the Stratholme quest, for example, you can be farming items like Righteous Orbs that are going to sell incredibly well in the auction house, 60, 70 gold at the peak of the server. So we're making tons of gold from grinding, and tons of gold from quests at 60 as well. But one thing I've really neglected is professions. You see, any of the farms we've talked about here are only going to get better when you add in mining, when you add in herbalism as well. When I was farming furbogs, I had an herbalism friend who was getting things like Black Lotus. I had a mining friend that was getting things like the thoriums. They were making so much money, and you can only imagine they could have doubled, tripled their profit if they were running both mining and herbalism at the same time. There's even a weak card that allows you to run mining and herbalism and scan between them at the same exact time to really increase your profits. One other note on professions as well. You might think, okay, something like mining is really only going to be profitable when you reach the higher levels, but that's not really the case at all. For one thing, if you're willing to mine, a lot of people are just not willing to do it themselves. They buy the ore and they smelt, and they will be willing to pay a premium. Another thing you can do if you really want to get your mount immediately at 40, you can be making iron grenades the entire time you're leveling. You're mining, you're making grenades, and these sell to the vendor for a significant profit, and you could have 100 gold by level 40 very easily. So with all of that money you're making, one of the things you want to really do is go to the auction house. The auction house is where you can buy all sorts of incredibly cheap items that people are getting while they're leveling. You got to think about things like wool cloth, for example, being at a low price now and going up in the future as less and less people are leveling. You got to think about things like the golden pearls, the small flame sacks, things that people really hate farming typically, that people are just happen to be farming right now. Then really the other massive profit maker is profitable vendor flips. And this is one of my biggest secrets to how I've gotten so much money so quickly on my fresh server. See, I'm playing hardcore WoW, so I'm not able to do things like buying silk cloth from the auction house below 2 silver, and then making the heavy silk bandages and selling them to the vendor for profit. Still, I have maxed out my first aid, and I do farm cloth, and I do the exact same method, just without being able to buy it. But there are so many other profitable vendor flips you can do that are especially good right at this exact moment. I've got a massive list of profitable vendor flips that you're not going to want to miss out on. So many items that you could be buying right now dirt cheap. You turn them into something else, you sell them to the vendor, and you make incredible profit. Really, any farm can be combined with profitable vendor flips, and there's just so much potential here to really massively ramp up your profits. No matter what you do though, from leveling profit, farming profit, profession profit, auction house profit, the key is to get out there and start making some money, because the more money you have now, the more you can invest and the more profit you can make the rest of the server. The people that make gold now are the people that won't have to farm gold later, and they're the people that get to enjoy the legendaries and the epic mounts and all the things you dream of. It's still not too late to become one of those players, and I highly recommend it. It will be extremely worth it and extremely fun. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe or Ravager Axe will never drop on your warrior. Next, check out my ultimate guide on exactly what to do the second you hit level 60.